Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We'll go to Mr. Nwachukwu, who is a legal practitioner, also to weigh in on this matter within the judiciary, the fight against corruption, and what the president also thinks. Thank you for coming on again today.
Thank you very much.
Well, we heard the CJN did say there that, well, yes, the government needs to obey court orders, but we also do know that there's this interest, this focus, and something rightly so, on ensuring that the judiciary is cleansed of any corrupt tendencies by particularly the judges. But you heard the president also say, look, the move against the judges, that arrest was not, or whatever action coming from the executive is not intended to intimidate the judiciary. Does that go down well with other people?
I don't think that there's any sincerity in that statement, unfortunately so, from the president. Politics is gearing up. Even his presence at that judicial institute, just because of politics. And if you could also see, he went to the southeast, and things he had not done before, he's beginning to do them. And if you watched him closely, the speech, you could watch the body language, the disconnect between him and the speech. He was reading, and he was bent over his speech. He didn't prepare that speech. It was a short speech. It was something you could have given extempore.
How do you see all this for sure?
I was looking at him. I saw the disconnect between him and the speech.
So just by looking at him?
Yes, because I'm talking. When you're looking at, when you're watching me, you find out that what I'm saying, I mean, there's a lot of conviction. There's conviction in my tone and all of that. He didn't find that. He was just reading. He was just bent over the script. He was just playing a part.
Well, that's going to be very...
That's the way I see it. But in any case, what he said, now, you don't go to somebody's house, a judge, it's unprecedented. You break down the door of a judge. And at the end of the day, you don't come up with anything that justifies that action. When I say justifies, all that you're bringing are things that could have been a result of investigation. When you do such a thing, you call it a sting. It is that there is hot evidence on the spot that you will use for prosecution. But the ones they have done have revealed that they had nothing. There was absolutely, they are still relying on evidence of bank statements and what have you.
But all the cases have not been dispensed with.
Well,
so
the ones
can
that
we
have
come
been
to conclusions?
Yeah, they've not come to come. But there's not even the ones that are ongoing. Nobody is talking about what you really got there, what justified that kind of unprecedented action. Nothing.
Yeah, but you know that in those kind of cases, as long as they are ongoing, you can't conclude anything.
No, it's not about. We are talking about. He said, "I did not mean to intimidate." That was an intimidating action. This is a judge. He's not used to that kind of thing.
Yeah, but does that mean that the issue that is being talked about cleansing the judiciary of corruption is invalid?
I don't think there was any move to cleanse the judiciary of corruption. Because when you are serious about something, there is a way you go about it.
Do you think that in efforts to cleanse systemic corruption in Nigeria, this government
now
is
you use the word systemic. There is nothing systemic. Now, I love the interview just before we came in, so the questions being asked. They look at on the streets. We haven't seen any change in attitude. Policemen are still extorting money on the streets and other government officials. So what's all this talk about fighting corruption if it doesn't get to the people? If the people's attitude is not affected, there is the common man on the street has not seen anything that will make him think there is any fight against corruption. What we see, I see scores are being settled. Scores, political scores, I don't care. He said that are these people guilty of whatever they are accused of? Look, when you want to find something, you will look with a tooth comb. And what you ordinarily would have winked at, because you have an interest in finding something. You are going to find something, and you are going to play it up.
Let me ask you, I mean, are you suggesting that public officials can go on business as usual?
No, I am suggesting that if you are serious about corruption, you are going to look at the processes.
But the MDAs...
The processes that terminate in the corrupt act. Now, let me just give you an example. I remember when Tafa Balogun was picked, and he was humiliated, and they said about 50 billion. He has stolen about 50 billion or whatever in a space of 3 years. And I was engaged to do an analysis. And I started asking myself questions. Now, this man was there for just about 3 years. What was the allocation to the police within that time? Let's talk about the money they say he stole. You know, what was the allocation to the police? Weren't they paying salaries within that period? Now, was the allocation paid to his pocket? What was the process of his getting money from the police? When I asked myself all these questions, I said, look, this is not a serious thing. There is something wrong somewhere. This guy has gone against something somewhere, and that is what is coming down on him. Because if I'm serious about fighting corruption, when I hear such a thing, I will look through the entire process of finances of the Nigerian police. Everything from beginning, from the time the allocation comes, where it flows, where it flows to, even the people giving the allocation.
Now, connect it to the judiciary.
Now, if connecting the judiciary is the same thing. If I'm interested, like people were interested in doing something in Ghana, they watched judicial officers over a period of time, painstakingly collected evidence. Evidence that was undeniable. And it was a lot of people. Over 30 of them, and they were shown the way out. They couldn't say anything.
But would you agree also that part of the success story that this government usually accredits to itself is the TSA, which has been able to block leakages for MDAs? Isn't that a systemic approach to stopping corruption? Now,
TSA is part of it. TSA was started by the former government, and this government just rushed into TSA. Now, TSA also has its own drawbacks in terms of slowing down payments. I mean, things that, for instance, now you wonder, if I were running a business, am I going to have this kind of TSA? Something that makes it extremely difficult for money to be paid to you. But that's not the issue. TSA in itself is not sufficient because they find other ways of beating the TSA. People find other ways of beating that TSA. So you cannot just rely and say...
They do?
No, I'm not saying... And I've come across situations where somebody say, pay, but there's TSA, don't worry, pay this money this way. Do you understand what I'm saying?
But if that will not be right.